Here is a graph showing how couples divide their time and effort. There were fewer women, -1.25, than males, -0.75, who did more than half of the housework. Cleaning jobs are held disproportionately by women, 0.2, compared to males, 0.1. Respondent working part-time and partner working full-time elicited equal results from men and women, 0.3. They felt the same way about the twofold increase in hourly wages, 0. In general, the attitudes of men and women to the division of labor differed at times. The line graph shows how Promo Plus in Istanbul fluctuated over a period of 12 months. It is observed that in the first month of 2007, Promo Plus sales stood at 200 million Turkish lira and rose slightly to reach about 225 million in February. This was followed by another increase, although much steeper, in March when sales were almost 125 million Turkish lira higher than February. However, this upward trend was suddenly broken and sales plummeted dramatically over the next 4 months to reach a little over 100 million Turkish lira in July. August sales showed a significant rise back to January levels as figures nearly doubled, but this did not last long as they dropped again in September to the same level as they were in July. Overall, Promo Plus in Istanbul remained relatively unchanged in 2007 as January and December sales were fairly equal. A beautiful illustration depicts how complicated-looking taxi services operate around a town or metropolis. As can be seen in the image, there are several components involved. To complete a taxi service workflow, the most up-to-date technological tools and equipment are employed. Customers may book taxis over the phone or online, according to the graphic. If the order is placed by phone, it is routed to operators who arrange a reservation. It goes to a workstation desktop if it's online. Finally, the order is sent to the main taxi service server, which contacts the nearest or concerned taxi drivers. The entire workflow is dependent on satellites and devices, as indicated in the middle of the image. Film viewing numbers by nation are compared in this table, which is based on millions. There are 24.5 million moviegoers in India. Action was the most popular subgenre in India, with an audience of 8 million people, while horror had the lowest viewership, at 2.5 million. Despite this, Japan is the country with the lowest number of cinemagoers, at 17.8 million. At 7.1 million viewers, action was the most popular genre, while horror was the least popular, at 2.2 million. Overall, India has the biggest number of cinemagoers, while Japan has the lowest number of cinemagoers. The image serves as a visual record of the experiment's results. Students and their teacher are doing an experiment on the blue desk in the photo, as can be seen. The experiment that one of the pupils is conducting appears to be being closely monitored by the teacher. In addition, we can see that all of the students are wearing protective eyewear for their own protection. To summarize, this image depicts the steps involved in doing a chemical experiment. The line graph depicts the 3-year costs for various one-time purchases in monthly installments. The number of people recharging their mobile phones online dropped from 1,000 in 2015 to less than 400 in 2017, but the number of people purchasing tickets online increased from 500 to 1,500. There was a little fall then rise in the number of people ordering food online from 1,500 in 2015 to 1,900 in 2017. Over the course of the event, food and ticket sales increased but cell phone recharges decreased. The procedure shows how to prepare for a broadcast on television, radio, or a recorded message. A satellite, radar, or a floating buoy in the water are used to acquire the first clues about what is going on. The buoy transmits a synoptic chart to a central computer, which then distributes information to the numerous broadcasts, while the satellite delivers a photo and the radar makes a radar screen. Before broadcasting, all information must first be transferred to a computer. There are 7 steps of supply chain management depicted in the process. Order tracking and planning are the first steps, followed by product development. After that, material is procured, which is used in the 4th step of manufacturing. Finally, the product is supported once it has been accepted by the market through logistics and customer acceptability. A total of 7 phases are involved in the process, demonstrating speed, versatility, and quality. The graphic depicted is a dual-line graph that provides us with crucial information on the typical classroom sizes in the United Kingdom. From 1994 to 2006, the study was carried out. While the x-axis lists years, the y-axis lists typical class sizes, which range from 19 to 29 students. The primary school is identified by a greenish dotted line, whereas the senior school is identified by a purple dotted line. The primary class size has grown somewhat in 1998, despite the fact that both lines ran virtually parallel. Ups and downs are absent on the secondary line. Overall, both lines stay steady in their respective locations. In 1998, adults in the United Kingdom spent a higher percentage of their income, 25%, on food than children did, 14%, 10%. Adult women, on the other hand, spend 40% more than their male counterparts, 14%. On average, children, 23%, and boys, 18%, spend more money on electronics than adults. Children, 39%, spend more money on music than adults, 14%, 5%. Adults spent more on meals, while children spent more on electronic equipment and music. For both adults and children, videotapes were the most disliked buying option. The bar graph provides information on groundwater and public supplies. According to the graph, chemicals have taken up the most, accounting for 430 parts per million in groundwater and 240 parts per million in potable water supplies. There are 190 in public supply and 110 in groundwater for food and beverages. Textiles, on the other hand, account for the least share, at 80% in groundwater and 10% in public supply. As a result, groundwater and public water supplies are dominated by chemicals. In this graph, unemployment rates in 2012 are compared to median weekly wages in the same year. On the left, there are purple bars indicating unemployment rates, while on the right, there are green bars showing median weekly wages. As I can see from the data, persons without a high school certificate account for 12.4% of the population and earn relatively little. A high school diploma is worth around $652, which is a bit more. As we progress up the ladder, people with doctorate and professional degrees have the greatest wages. To summarize, those with more education are less likely to remain unemployed. In this bar graph, the percentage of the people living in urban regions is shown through time. Africa's population grew at the slowest rate, from 15% in 1950 to 37% in 2007, and is only expected to rise by 51% by 2030. North America's population grew from 64% in 1950 to 79% in 2007 and is expected to expand to 87% by 2030, making it the most populous continent in the world. Overall, Africa had the lowest population density, whereas North America had the highest growth rate. This graph shows the total number of students that participated in high school athletics from 1971 to 2010. Boys' participation increased from 3.6 million to 4.4 million between 1971 and 1977, then dropped to almost 3.4 million before rising to 4.5 million in 2009. Girls' participation increased from 400,000 to 2 million between 1971 and 1977, then dropped to almost 1.9 million before rising to 2.6 million in 2009. This pattern holds true for both genders. From 2009 to 2013, the operating cash flow and capital expenditures are shown in a line graph. There was a dramatic increase in the amount of operating cash flow between 2009 and 2013, rising from roughly $40,000 to about $85,000. Between 2010 and 2013, the amount spent on capital projects remained steady at around $30,000, with a slight increase in 2011. Capital expenditures were steady, while operational cash flow increased throughout the years. E-waste is depicted as a graph in this article. The graph shows that, when looking at electronic trash, DVD/VCR players, radios, and hi-fi sets, for example, account for roughly 15% of the total. According to the graph, the second largest percentage of electronic waste may be found in television, which accounts for roughly 10%. Figures from the graph clearly show that refrigerators use the least amount of electricity, accounting for about 20% of the total. As a result, we may conclude that the graph is really useful. For the years 1997 to 2005, the dual horizontal line graph shows the salary disparities between men and women in Scotland and the United Kingdom. A blue line denotes the pay disparity in Scotland, whereas a dotted line denotes the pay gap throughout the United Kingdom. Both gaps are expressed as percentages. While the gender pay difference in both nations has steadily decreased from 15 to 20% to 7 to 14%, the dotted line, which represents the UK pay gap, has remained constant even as the pay gap in both countries has decreased. From 1997 to 1999, the Scotland pay gap line exhibits a zigzag pattern. To summarize, the wage disparity between men and women in both nations has steadily narrowed. The percentage of water used in 2000 by Gulf nations is shown in the graph below. Agricultural usage is the primary use of water in 4 of the 6 nations studied. This includes Oman, 83%, Saudi Arabia, 85%, the United Arab Emirates, 65%, Qatar, 62%, and Oman, 83%. All 6 nations, on the other hand, utilize the least amount of water for industrial purposes, with water usage ranging from 2 to 18%. The majority of Gulf nations utilize the most water for agricultural purposes, and the least water for industrial purposes of any country in the region. From 2000 to 2004, the following graph shows data on adult literacy by region. As can be seen, Latin America and the Caribbean have the highest percentage, with 89% of girls and 91% of men. Asia has the second highest percentage, with girls reporting 73% and males reporting 86%. Sub-Saharan Africa, on the other hand, has the least number, with 53% of girls and 79% of men. In conclusion, males in all regions had a higher adult literacy rate than females. From 2003 to 2012, the number of severe weather days recorded on this map of the United States. Severe weather occurs just once or twice a year in the western part of the United States, but the Midwest and East Coast experience 20 to 30 days each year. Overall, the East Coast of the United States experiences more severe weather days than the West Coast.